My wife's little sister will not leave me alone, and now she has made me do things I regret. I'm 28 years old and I've been married to my wife, who is 24 years old, for 2 years. Before we got married, we dated for 3 years. We have a 4-year-old son who we had before we got married, and my wife is pregnant with our baby girl. Basically, my wife lived all her life in the village. She moved to the city to assist her aunt at the restaurant when she was around 23 years old. I had gone with a few colleagues to eat at her aunt's shop bar, and she was the one who served our food. She was very beautiful and shy, and I was deeply attracted to her the first time I saw her. It was because of her that I came to the shop bar a second time. After eating, I asked for a number, and everything started from there. I was not ready to settle down, and I made it clear to her. The truth was that when we first started dating, I had no intention of taking our relationship seriously because even though she was beautiful, kind, and gentle, she was not very educated. She only went as far as junior high school. I wanted to be with someone on my educational level since I had finished university and was doing my service at the time. I also had plans to do my master's degree and possibly my PhD. Now, let's call my wife Martha. Martha told me she couldn't finish her education because her dad was just a farmer in the village and had 9 kids. She was the eldest, so she had to drop out of school to help take care of her younger siblings. Despite this, she told me she wanted to join a remedial school for a year and then write her senior high school exams. After that, she wanted to go to a fashion school. Martha was very determined, and that is one of the reasons why I fell in love with her. 6 months into our relationship, she got pregnant. I wanted her to have an abortion, but she refused. At the time, I had gotten a good job and could take care of her and the baby. Also, I really loved her at this point, and so I agreed to let her have the baby. She moved in with me, and she started using this period to go to the remedial school. A couple of months after she moved in, we both decided to go to a village to see her parents. Even though she was pregnant, I was not ready to settle down. But my mom thought the right thing to do was to go see her parents to let them know their daughter was pregnant and that she was staying with me. At the time, I had already bought my own small car and we drove together to a village. I didn't know if it was because of the car I was driving, but her parents really received me well. They didn't even seem to care about their daughter's pregnancy. It was as if they were just happy she was with someone like me. I could see her family was really struggling financially. The whole family slept in a one-bedroom house. Martha introduced all her siblings to me, and they all came to shake my hand one by one. When it was the turn of her younger sister, who we will call Rita, she was 15 years old at the time. This girl didn't just shake my hand, but sensually massaged it and winked at me. I didn't think much of it at the time, but I noticed she kept looking at me. This wasn't strange since all her other siblings were also looking at me. Martha's mom cooked, and before we ate, Martha's other siblings were asked to leave the room, and so it was only Martha, her mom, her dad, and me in the living room. A few minutes after we finished eating, all her other siblings came back into the room. Since there were many of them, some of them had to sit on the floor. The youngest, who was 2 years old, sat on Martha's lap. Before I knew it, Rita was sitting on my lap. The way she just sat on my lap made me very uncomfortable. She started talking about the city and how she wanted to go there. I looked at Martha, and she didn't seem to mind that her 15 years old sister was sitting on me. She was in a deep conversation with her mom. I would have asked Rita to get up immediately, but I just wanted to be polite. So I continued talking to her and answering her questions about the city. At first, she sat on my laps quietly while we were talking, but slowly she started twisting her hips and moving around. At first, it seemed like she wasn't doing it deliberately. Both of my hands were by my side as we talked. Then, before I knew it, she was holding both my hands and wrapping them around her. I hate to admit it, but the girl was making me hard. And I didn't know if she was doing it intentionally or if it was all in my head. I knew I had to get out of there fast. I pretended to get a call on my phone, asked her and her family to excuse me, and walked out of the room. A few minutes later, I told them I had to attend to something urgently back at home. Before we left, Rita went to Martha and asked if she could come and stay with us. And Martha told her no, that she should concentrate on her studies since she's still in school. Then she turned to me and asked me if she could come and stay with us once she finishes school. The whole family was staring at me. So I nodded, said goodbye to them, and we drove away. When Martha gave birth, a family came for the naming ceremony. Because I was very busy throughout and didn't really sit in one place, I didn't talk to Rita much. I just spoke to her once and asked her how she was doing. But throughout the ceremony, I could feel her watching me. Fast forward a couple of years later, I was ready to marry Martha, and her family came again. Just like during the naming ceremony, I didn't really have time to talk to Rita at all, but I could feel her eyes on me throughout. Rita had just finished senior high school at this point, and I didn't want to talk to her at all since I was scared she would ask if she could move in with us. After we got married, I remember having a conversation with Martha where she told me Rita had moved in with her auntie, the one who owned the chop bar, to assist her. I just nodded when she told me this. Then Martha got pregnant with our second child, and the pregnancy really affected her. She couldn't keep her foot down. Everything she ate, she vomited. She was always weak, and we were at the hospital almost every day. I didn't want her to be alone in the house when I was awake. So when she told me she wanted Rita to move in and assist her at home, I agreed. At this time, I was always busy with work. I was only home on Sundays, so I knew it was a good idea for her sister to move in. Everything was great in the first few months after she moved in. I only saw her at night since I left very early in the morning, and on Sundays. Most of the time, she would just greet me and I would ask her how she was doing. That was all. At this point, I was beginning to think that what happened the first time we met was all in my head. Then one day, I came home late from work. My wife was already sleeping and I was tired. I was in the living room watching TV when I dozed off, only to wake up with Rita's mouth around my pee. She was kneeling in front of me, giving me a blowjob. To say I was shocked is an understatement, and I hate myself for not asking her to stop. I just let her continue until I came. Then she stood up, smiled at me, and walked away. It happened so fast, just like that. I didn't even know what to say to her when I saw her the next day. She just smiled and greeted me. We didn't talk about it, and I just acted like nothing happened between us. Then, about a month later, she joined me in the bathroom. I was bathing, and before I knew it, she was in the bathroom with me, naked. She went down on her knees and gave me a blowjob again. This time, I tried to talk to her, but she wouldn't listen. I was weak and let her continue. After she finished, she smiled and walked out. I feel ashamed of myself and very guilty every time I see my wife. With the way things are going, I might end up sleeping with Rita, and I don't want that to happen. I've been doing my best to avoid her, and I'm thinking about talking to my wife about Rita leaving so we can get a house help instead. But I know she will disagree and ask me why I want her sister to go away. At this point, if Rita doesn't leave, I don't know what will happen the next time she tries to touch me. I'm also scared Rita will say I touched her first. So I want to tell my wife the truth about everything. I know I messed up too, but my wife is not in the best conditions nowadays. She's always weak or sick. And I don't know if I should be telling her this now or how she would react. I really love her and I don't want to lose her. I know this will also impact her relationship with her sister. I don't know what to do. Rita smiles and winks every time she sees me, and I know she's planning to make a move again. What should I do? Should I tell my wife the truth? And is it wise to tell her in a current condition? How do I tell her something like this? I don't want to lose her. This situation is really worrying me, and I really need advice.